Joining me today, I have mayoral candidate Chris Clacio. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
And thank you for inviting me to attend.
Absolutely. We'll start off with a very simple question today. I would love to hear, why did you decide to run for mayor?
I decided to run for mayor since back in 2014. I originally wanted to run for mayor just so I could be engaged and see that more young people felt like they were engaged. And the best way to see that happen is to run as a young person and see my values be reflected. And so if more young people saw another young person run for the highest level of office for a city, then that they can be engaged in any level of politics, no matter uh, what kind of passions or dreams that they have.
At the top of many Winnipeggers' list during this election is homelessness and poverty. How do you plan to help people experiencing homelessness in Winnipeg?
In all honesty, one of the things that I want to add to the conversation about this idea of homelessness is it's not that we have a homelessness problem in this, or a homelessness crisis, is that we have a homesickness crisis right now. When I think about the years that I've worked with urban indigenous young people in the inner city, they always talked about that we want to not stop talking about our relatives on the streets as homeless and that they don't have any value or that we put them to the side and leave them on bus shacks. No, it's about acknowledging that we live on a land that is not our own to keep or to own. It's part of being, in my honest opinion, it's about honoring our treaty relationship to the land. And when we forget to treat our relatives on the streets as relatives and that they are our family members, then that's a big frustration for me because we all want to do good. We all want to be good, and we want to not just talk about how to help our relatives on the streets. It's about understanding why were they there in the first place. If we understood our relationship with urban indigenous young people, then maybe we could have prevented all this happening, this crisis from happening, because they would have been involved in the process. That that doesn't just mean that they're we talk to them and we put that topic on the news as a headline, but they're involved in their own solutions, and we follow the people's lived experience as the way out of this crisis. If we don't take care of people's own basic needs and that they feel like they belong, then we will be stuck in this crisis until for until maybe 10,000 years into the future. I'm done talking about uh, things 4 years, 10 years. It's time to really think about what kind of world do we want our next generation to feel like this is a world that's set up to support everyone and that we care about people first and not about profit or blaming or anger. It's about solutions that support everyone that we care about.
Crime is also right at the top of many people's list. What needs to be done to reduce crime in the city?
One thing that I've proposed early on in the election is we should cap the police budget to 20% of the city budget currently. Right now, the current budget is 26.5% of the city budget. And one of the aspects that I feel like is we are missing is how senior administration of the police service manages their police officers. I believe that if we take a fiscal policy approach to addressing homelessness and seeing that we enforce the senior police officers or managing the staff to really look at data, look at where the crime is happening more prevalent, and direct police officers to where that those events are happening. Right now, the reason we can't do that is we don't look at the data, we don't know how to manage our police officers, And we have to connect those dots. How do we direct them if we don't even know uh, what kinds of intelligence that the police need if they don't share or engage with community members? I feel like working with a lot of urban indigenous young people is when we see a police officer, some of us don't take that as a deterrence. It just makes us feel more unsafe. And so, if we actually directed police officers to the places that they need to be, I believe that that would allow people to see that, uh, to not even not see, but to make sure that the police officers in that space are there because that's where the data says that they need to be. I'm a big believer in science, the research, and understanding people's behavior. We have amazing staff, but I think the way we think about policing is as an everyday citizen. I'm not a police officer. I don't know what their lived experience is in solving crimes, and so there's that disconnect that I think the everyday citizen and people who actually the experts don't really communicate why the police officers aren't addressing the 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 events that are yeah.
A lot of top issues might also involve provincial and federal jurisdiction. How do you plan to improve relationships with other governments?
That's a great question. One of my big uh, vows in my election platform is looking at the capital planning region. Here in Manitoba, we have the legislation called the Capital Region Partnership Act of 2006. Essentially means that 17 municipalities outside of the city of Winnipeg must work together to direct and service city services. I believe that we can stop the bickering with all the other levels of government uh, through convening at the capital planning region, which is right now called the Winnipeg Metro region. Legislation that the provincial government just recently changed was the Planning Act and the Winnipeg City Charter Amendment Act, essentially formalizing the Winnipeg Metro Board into this capital region board, capital planning region board. And so this is the time and the opportunity to really look at economics and how we build our local economic development through the capital planning region, because we are the center of the world, the continent. But for me, I believe we're the center of the world, and so I believe there is so much opportunities at convening in the Winnipeg Metro region that that's the solution we can get our relationships with those other 17 municipalities to really push and leverage the provincial and the federal government to direct the funds that we need for city services for the city and for the region. And that's where we can stop this bickering.
This spring really highlighted the city's crumbling road infrastructure. How do you plan to address this?
One of my plans, again, early in my election platform, was talking about changing the current procurement process or purchasing process at City Hall. One of the frustrations for me is the RFP or request for proposal process, which usually means that the lowest bid usually gets the deal. And the lowest bid doesn't always mean that they have the good quality of work for the construction that we share the bid and the award with. And so changing that into qualification-based selection process, meaning that, or an RFQ, a request for qualifications. So in the city sets standards. Those standards must be met by the construction companies and show that they have the capacity to find cost savings within the project find cost savings for the materials that they gain. And if the construction company can show that they have done projects around the country, that they can properly manage the construction, then that's the best way that citizens will get the best value for their money. And so we really need to change processes and the way we think about long-term planning for road infrastructure. Roads will always be a high priority for any citizen because that's where economic development really starts coming if we do invest in that.
Where is the money going to come from to accomplish what you hope to do?
Here's a little bit civics 101 that many citizens don't really understand. When I hear politicians talk, they talk about taxes, taxes. But technically, the city has 4 ways that they can earn money or funding, and that's through property tax, user fees, like your bus fares, your water meter payments. Third, government transfers from higher levels of government where you do have to apply. And lastly, through debt, through the bank system. They take out debt. And so one of the ways that I feel we could get more money is, once again, I'm a big believer in research, looking at other alternatives to systems that have gotten us into this mess. And one of the solutions that I call is a land value tax, and replacing the land value tax over the property tax. Not many understand that the property tax is a regressive tax because the amount of how much certain homeowners pay are different from other homeowners in other parts of the city. If we tax the land evenly, that's an easier way to administer the funds, collect the funds from citizens, as well as fund every property owner related to the land, because the land is not our own. Like I said, working with urban indigenous young people, the land, we as citizens, we are stewardships of the land. And so we really need to rethink our relationships to buildings and property, because not everyone owns property. I myself am a renter. I don't think I'll ever be able to own my own home in this world we have today, because we don't have enough. I can't afford it. I don't want to take out debt. I don't want finance. It's very hard for me to really even think about my future if I can't even think about today. And so changing the land value tax, putting in place a land value tax, we will need to work with the other levels of government and partnerships to really educate all citizens about, and organizations understand that this land value tax is a progressive tax that will support the whole city and will eventually give us all the funding that we need for all our projects.
Thank you for answering all those questions, Chris Clacio. Where can people find out more about your platform?
People can learn more about my platform on my website, but I hate sharing my website because it's one long website. So I encourage everyone to look at the City of Winnipeg website and look at all the mayoral candidates and your city councilors' websites. So you can find my website on there, and you can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Instagram and Twitter, you can reach me at Chris Clacio, WPG. And for Facebook, you can contact me through Chris Clacio, running for office of the mayor. What could be possible? Because I can see the possibilities if all citizens are engaged in the civic process.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate this, and we will get this up shortly.
Thank you, Sylvia.